Hi Booktube, I am Sadie and I am back, and I am sorry that I am late with my March wrap up, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and do it succinctly and quickly because here we are in the middle of April and I haven't done March yet. Oh well. I also have them inverted the improper way. So the first book I finished in March was Nyctophobia by Christopher Fowler. And I love this intro here. It goes like this. That's how it opens. I love this book. I have read many Christopher Fowler books. I have not read, apparently he's done a series. Hold on. This does not need to be here anymore. I finished that. I have not read the series he's done. He's done a series with a set of characters. I've only read all of his horror, or at least most of it, like 8 or 9 books of his horror. Does this one have a list? Oh yeah, the Bryant in May. I have not done the Bryant in May. 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8. This is the 8th book by him I've read, and I've also got Hell Train. But this book, if you like We've Always Lived in the Castle, then this is a book for you. It completely plays on a fear of the dark, which is what nyctophobia is. It's being afraid of the dark. But it's also got this creepy haunted house thing going on, and so Callie, who is our main character, has just married this man. He has a daughter. They have his daughter is older and is from a previous marriage. She's fine with this. They decide to move to Spain, and in moving to Spain they find this house. As she's trained architecturally, she falls in love with the house because it has many attributes that she loves, in that most of the house is always in perpetual sunlight or moonlight. It's always in perpetual light, whereas the other half of the house, which is just slightly off, is always in perpetual darkness. And she is really drawn to this house, and it comes with housekeepers, and it's really far out. It's very remote. Subsequently, the house starts getting to her. If you've read House of Leaves and you've watched the descent of madness that happens to Zampano, and subsequently the reader or who we're following, it has that kind of an element to it. And then we realize that there are other things inhabiting the other side of the house. And then there's a plot twist. I don't want to give away too much of the book, but if you're into creepy, strange, psychological horror with weird houses, pick this up, and you will not be let down. As far as horror stories go, this is really well written. Had me sleeping with the light on. Then next, I moved to Euphoria by Lily King, which is a New York Times Book Review 2014 Book of the Year and a Kirkus Prize book. And I believe that if you have never studied anthropology and you have no idea what she's talking about, this will be a good book for you. However, if you have any idea of what anthropology is about, you may be a little rattled. Ultimately, it pissed me off, because I know the writers who she's talking about. I know the area where she's talking about. I have had professors who specialize in those areas. There's a couple little nods, and it's kind of like, you're not an anthropologist, you're not writing this properly. Anthropologists don't. It made me mad more than I enjoyed it. However, if I take away the fact, if I just thought it was a book, it would be a good book. But the fact that she's writing it about really well-known anthropologists kind of pisses me off. And it's very ineffectual, and it's just wrong. So for me, it was a flop. For me, it did exactly what you're not supposed to do in anthropology, which is romanticize the natives romanticize this whole idea. She tried to downplay it, and she tried to play up a bunch of different things, and then there was the love story, and basically all of it, it was muddled. I think it was too short for what she was trying to do. Her characters were one-dimensional to me, so I don't know how she won this many awards, but it'd be a good beach read if you have absolutely no understanding in the field. Up next is a book my husband got me. I'm actually going to haul it when I do my book haul, which is the first in the Ring series. There are 3 books in the Ring series. The first one is Ring. There's Ring, Loop, and Spiral, and you can see them over here for the haul stack. This is still March haul. I still have to finish March's haul. I'm behind. I'm sorry. I was sick. And it says this is the movie that spawned the books. I did watch Hannah Tay, who I really enjoy her book or her reviews and her channel, but she had made the comment that the best friend in here does something heinous and she couldn't get past it, so she couldn't finish it. I guess I've read too many horror books where that's not really an issue. I had no problem overlooking what the best friend did, or rather, I knew what the best friend did, so I didn't feel bad, and quite frankly, in the end, he gets his comeuppance anyway. So, and this one messed with my head. Like, it's so much better than the movies. So much better than the movie. My head was completely screwed. I just love it. If you've seen the movie, you can't, well, no. If you've seen the Japanese movie, Ringu, based off of this, then you have an idea of what's going on. If you've seen the American movies, you don't really have an idea of what's going on. So well written. It just... The only downside is that Koji Suzuki, who wrote it, has the same last name as David Suzuki, who's a famous environmentalist in Canada. So I was like, huh. But I ate it up. It took me like a day or two. It was awesome. It's translated from the original Japanese by Robert B. Romer and Glyn Wally. Loved it. If you like horror and you've seen the movie and you thought the original Japanese movie was good, check out the book. Your mind will be blown. I should probably arrange these in piles of which is actually going back in the bookshelf and which is not. I can tell you which one's not going back in the bookshelf. Then I had a advanced reading copy of Human Acts by Han Kang, who wrote The Vegetarian, and translated from the Korean and introduced by Deborah Smith. Sometimes I have trouble with hype books. I had no trouble with this hype book. It is awesome. It is amazing. It is so beautifully written. The translation must be wonderful because I can only imagine that if it's even better in its original form, the translation is really well done. It's disgusting. There are bloated bodies. There are, if you like, I mean, the picture on the front has flowers, but it's not flowery at all. It is the vapid disgustingness of, not war, but what happens when people are killed during uprisings. And I feel that it is inherently important during our current political climate to read stuff like this because, I mean, we need to understand that there is a toll. And so this is about Dong Ho, ultimately, and then the many people surrounding Dong Ho. And I didn't know how it would be done, but it's done really well in that it's broken down into different people at different times recounting the same experience. And it just came out so beautiful. Now, if you have a hard time with gore, violence, and the normalization of violence, this could be problematic for you. If you had no problem reading American Psycho or something like that, you're fine. It has a certain quality, so make sure you read it in a certain frame of mind. Don't read it when you're sad. It'll just make you sadder. But it is so relevant and so wonderfully written. I cannot stress it enough. It is heartbreaking. And that's all I'm going to say about that because everybody else has talked about it. The last thing I read was, or I've been reading it for a while, really hard for me to read, to get into. It's called Black Elk, The Sacred Ways of a Lakota by Wallace Black Elk and William S. Lyon. William S. Lyon, of course, being a professor of anthropology, I believe, at the University of Oregon at the time that this was done, who basically transcribed stories told by Wallace Black Elk, a famous shaman amongst the, why do I want to say Sugar Cube? Rosebud, the Rosebud First Nation out of South Dakota, which of course is where we are currently experiencing the whole dapple problem. And okay, so William S. Lyon taught at Ashland College in Oregon and at the University of California in Berkeley. He worked with Black Elk for more than 10 years. I'm not sure if Black Elk is still currently alive. It's very similar teachings to the way I was brought up, so it's nothing that strange to me. It's actually like listening to an elder tell stories. But that, in the same sense, that can become very halting, and you really have to get into the flow of words, because the elders, in my mind, when I've visited elders or when elders have spoken and I've been around or I've gone to elders speaking, or if you've been in a ceremony, they have a certain cadence and they take their time, and everything makes sense in the end, but you're wondering where they're going. And he does that. He does that really quite a bit. He explains everything the way that he understands and he knows. And I think if you're interested in the ways of the Lakota, or you're interested in Native American spiritual practices, this might be a good book for you. I gave it 4 stars, I believe. But it took me some time just to get with the cadence and to understand what he was saying and stuff like that. It's not a particularly big book. There's a lot of cross-referencing. There are several words which have to be translated in the back. Still, a very good read for Native American studies, particularly in the United States or anywhere in the plains of Canada, because the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota, the Sioux, we're all kind of the same. Well, I'm Cree, but we're Cree and we're kind of like them too, so if you're in the plains, chances are. And those were the 5 books. I'll do this for you. And these are the 5 books I read in March. I'm hoping to have more than 5 read in April. But I am still cruising through Middlemarch, which is a honking beast of a book. So fingers crossed that I get that done in April. I'm not holding my breath. And I will see everybody again next month.